John here with Certified On Demand, and I have to say I've been working with Salesforce for about 10 years now, and this is one of my favorite releases. There is just a ton packed into the Winter 18 release. And so let's take a look at what we're going to cover here. And so there's a lot packed into this release, and rather than read through this slide, let's jump into an org and take a look. Now what I want to start off with is the Lightning Report Builder. And you'll notice that I'm logged in through Lightning Experience. There are a few switches that you need to turn on in order to enable this particular report builder. I'll point those out to you here in just a minute, but just be aware that it's not turned on by default and this is still in beta. And I'm also going to assume that you're already familiar somewhat with Salesforce reports, so we're going to go ahead and choose just a basic opportunity report type. And you'll see here that we've got no results at this time, and that's because my default filter over here is set to the current fiscal quarter, and we're just going to reset this to all time. So we have, as you can see here on the left, we have our filters, we have our preview pane here on the right, and let's go and let's expand this out a little bit. Let's try and build a report here. So we can go in and find a column. If we wanted the account type, we could bring that in. We can also remove the columns very easily here. An account type in that example was a formula field on the opportunity. And let's go ahead and let's take a look at how groupings are done. So if we wanted to pull in, let's say, groupings by account name, we can just search for the field above. We can put in account name, and it's automatically grouped this report now by the account name. So we're doing our subtotaling and summarization this way. We still have the ability, of course, to do, if we click into the arrows, we can do our summarization. So we could, for example, sum the amount field. We could also go into the left-hand pane. Now that we've added a group above, we now have the ability to group columns. So if we have a row grouped, we can then group a column. And let's do that. So let's take a look at adding stage in as a column. And so this is one of my old favorite reports if we want to think about a matrix style report that's generated that gives us a list of opportunity totals based on the account. It's kind of what we're going for right now. And let's just run this and take a quick look at this. And you can see here that we have all of the detail with all of the records. And just like you might in Classic, we can go in and reconfigure this to no longer show the details of this report. And if we apply that, we now have a matrix report where we have summarization on the left-hand pane or left axis and on the y-axis by stage. So we're getting a subtotal by account of all of the opportunity records very quickly. You'll notice that we can also run this report without needing to save it first, so that's pretty awesome. And if we go back to edit here, if we wanted to make kind of a simpler version of this report, we'll remove the stage, or actually, you know what, let's go ahead and make that a column detail. And let's go ahead and run this again. And we'll show our details this time. And now we get, again, a very traditional sort of summary style report where we have the subtotal for, let's say, this particular account, and then the subtotal of all the opportunities under that account. And so that's just a quick look at the report builder. Now, as I mentioned before, you do need to turn this on. So there's two settings that you need to enable. Under the Report and Dashboard User Interface section and Setup, you need to enable the Lightning Report Builder. And then there's also a separate permission that needs to be applied. So if you're using a system administrator profile, you will need to create a permission set to do this for Report Builder Lightning Experience. So the easiest way, again, would probably be just to create a permission set and assign that to yourself, but you do need to do both of these things even if you are logged in as a sysadmin. All right, and next up, let's take a look at the dashboard filter. And so what I've done here is just created a very simple example. And in this example, we have a series of different opportunity reports and also an account report. So if we look at these two right here in red and the third one below, these are all opportunity-based reports. and this one in the top right is an account-based report. So we're actually reporting on different objects and then summarizing this all on a central dashboard. Now, the reason that this is important is that if you look at these filters above, we have the ability to create these filters that will apply to different areas of the data depending on how you configure it. So in this example, what I've done is I've said, let's use the close date and the account creation date as a filter. So if I choose, for example, this year, you'll notice that my opportunity data is going to change. My account data changed from 40 to 2. My opportunities all changed as well. But it's actually impacting or filtering the report data in different ways depending on how this particular filter is applied. And so I'm going to modify the dashboard, and we're going to take a look right down here at these filter components right here. What we've done is basically gone in and applied this filter so that we can say the created date is actually where we're going to apply this. So in this case, we're saying close date / account creation. We're going to apply this to the created date formula, and that is a formula because we're matching the opportunity close date, which is a date field, and the creation date is actually a date time field. So what I've done here is actually just created a formula field that converts the date time into a date field. But the overarching goal here is that we can actually choose how we want to apply this filter and to what data point that we want to apply the filter to, regardless of whether or not there's any sort of connection between these different reports or between the different objects. So that's a pretty powerful component that's now available. Next up, let's look at some new features in Lightning. Particularly, one that I love is the new hover component. So this hover component here acts very similarly to the related list hovers that were available in Classic. And so if you hover over any of these related elements, it's going to give you all of the records that you can see underneath. And so this is really a big deal for me because this was always one of the issues, was finding related information in a Lightning page very quickly was always very challenging. So this is a really awesome new component that you can add. The other thing that I'll show you is that we now have the ability to do conditional components. So here's just a very simple text Lightning component that says this is a high value opportunity. And what I'm going to do is modify this opportunity, and we're going to drop the value from $100,000 down to $1. And what you're going to see is that the Lightning page will automatically determine, based on a filter that was declared, to remove that particular component. It is no longer a high value opportunity. Now that's just a simple demonstration, but you could use this in all sorts of different ways. Now if we take a look at the back end, I'm going to pull up the Lightning app for this, and you'll see here that we have the component. This is a high value opportunity, and if I click into this component, we have the set component visibility. So we can go in and add filters to this. And again, this is just a very simple example that says if the amount is greater than 90,000, go ahead and display this. Otherwise, it won't display. And we have the related list, quick list here. And that's available if we find this on the left-hand pane. There's our related list quick links. Just drag that on the page, as simple as that. Now there were some other improvements that were made to Lightning, and here's just a quick example. We can now wrap text. So if you have long text or various information in your list views that you want to actually display all of it, this is a great feature. There's been lots of other little improvements as well, such as the ability to do inline editing. And let me pick an object that will let me do that doesn't have record types enabled. And we can now edit inline in the list. I can go ahead and add my phone number. The only thing to note here is that as you go through and you make multiple updates, you will have to click Save at the bottom. So we'll go ahead and save it. Again, that's pretty similar to Classic. While we're on leads, let's take a look at the lead conversion process, which is also changed in Lightning. So if we go into convert, we now have the ability to create a new account, create a new contact, create a new opportunity, or we can choose existing for all of them. And since this looks like an existing record, we're going to go ahead and find the test account. We're going to go ahead and choose an existing opportunity, and we'll choose an existing contact. So we'll go ahead and find my existing contact, and we'll go ahead and convert it. And we get a nice convert screen with our flag here, as well as links to the account, the contact, and the opportunity. Now, if we focus in on the back end, let's pop over into setup. You will see here that we now have setup search. So if I go in and put in test, for example, this is a full metadata search that's going through Salesforce and finding all of the fields, workflow, etc. that match the value test. This was available in Classic, still is available in Classic, but is now also available in Lightning Experience. Note that while you are in the setup menu, you are no longer searching records in Salesforce, you are searching metadata. And one last thing to talk about. Let's go in and find organization, company information rather. And we're going to go in and take a look at the multi-currency settings here. We now have the ability to activate multiple currencies without needing to do any sort of feature request to Salesforce. So if you're doing a lot of testing with multi-currency, the process for turning it on just got much more simple. There are some limitations around this. You can't do it for all environments. And of course, if you turn on multi-currencies, as the warning message says, you can't turn it off. There's a ton of implications, so don't just go check the box. But for those that do need it, and for those that are testing environments, the process just got a lot easier. So those are a few things that I really like about the Winter 18 release, and I appreciate you tuning in. Take care.